All right then. Pierre Poilievre is upset about MPs leaving his party. Today, we learned Pierre Poilievre is upset about how this has been covered by the media. It seems the media has been hounding Pierre Poilievre for comments for like a week now. Today, we finally got some comments from Pierre Poilievre, specifically about Chris d'Entremont. Chris d'Entremont is the MP that ended up crossing the floor to the Liberals. Here's what Pierre Poilievre said today about Chris d'Entremont.
Hi, Matthew Skase, Globe and Mail. You've yet to address last week's floor crossing and departure from caucus. Chris d'Entremont said your leadership is why he crossed the floor. How do you respond to comments that your caucus is not united right now?
Well, first of all, I just quote Mr. d'Entremont, who said, and I quote, "Since I first elected here in 2019, the cost of living has skyrocketed. Even then, families in Nova Scotia, as it is now, as it was called at the time back, but is now Acadie and Annapolis, we're struggling. We warned that the Liberals' out-of-control spending and massive deficits were irresponsible, but of course they did not listen. Now, after 6 months under the new Prime Minister Mark Carney, who promised fiscal discipline, Canadians are still waiting." He said, Mr. Carney said, I'm quoting Mr. d'Entremont here, Mr. Carney said he would be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. Since the Liberals came to power, food prices have risen 40%, said Mr. d'Entremont. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane for a G7 country, said Mr. d'Entremont of Liberal policies. He said, "We are a rich country. We are a food basket of a country. We can produce all the food for many people in the world, and we can barely feed ourselves for some reason," end quote. That is how Mr. d'Entremont described the outrageous cost of living as the direct result of Mark Carney's Liberals. I'm very saddened for the Nova Scotia families on whom Mr. Carney and Mr. d'Entremont are raising the price of groceries and homes, but that will not change our resolve to continue to fight for an affordable Canada, affordable budgets, and an affordable future. Thank you.
This is a great quote. It casts Chris d'Entremont as a person siding against his own conscience. It makes him look like a hypocrite who has gone against everything he publicly stated he believed in. It is a good counter by Pierre Poilievre. I gotta say, it is a great counter, and it is all totally legit. These are Chris d'Entremont's own words.
Since the Liberals came to power, Mr. Speaker, food prices have risen by 40%. You've heard it many times here today. It's deliberate. It's unacceptable. It's inhumane for a G7 country. We're a rich country. We're a food basket of a country. We can produce all the food for many people in the world, and we can barely feed ourselves for some reason.
So this is a case of a greedy person who has abandoned their values, their scruples. What else could it be? This is where you really start to understand just how diabolical politics is. Because there is one thing the National Post and Pierre Poilievre left out. It is context. Chris d'Entremont delivered these remarks as statements in the House of Commons. Why is that context important? I imagine a lot of you don't watch the question period in the House of Commons like I do. If you watch the House of Commons long enough, you start to see the careful choreography that is being curated. The debates in the House of Commons are not as spontaneous as you think. They are more about reinforcing the party's narrative for the public records and for TikTok clips, for, that kind of thing. What happens is MPs often receive prepared talking points and suggested lines of questioning or responses from their party leadership, especially during the question period and major statements. Opposition MPs are assigned specific questions to ask ministers. You can see some of them reading off the questions when they are called upon during question period. These talking points are usually coordinated by the party's research office and communications team. MPs are essentially expected to deliver lines that maybe do not necessarily reflect their personal convictions. That's my point here. So the context is important. Essentially, Chris d'Entremont was probably told what to say, and now they're using those words against him. It is clever, it is ruthless, and it is also deeply manipulative. But it is a fact. Chris d'Entremont did say those words. Here's the other thing Pierre Poilievre said today that I found interesting. He tried to redirect the attention of the media back to the Liberals. Listen to this part.
But I won't just quote him. I'll quote Nate Erskine Smith, a Liberal MP who now says that his children should not have to pay for Mark Carney's budget. Let me see here. Now to the bad and more fairly, where expectations were set at a level we failed to meet, including on the question of generational investments. The budget falls short of these specific promises in our platform, and it unfortunately falls well short of the wartime home building effort that many of us thought we'd deliver. It's certainly not a budget that should throw us into an election on an uncertain time, but it does not live up to its promise of generational investments. He goes on to say, this is Mr. Nate Erskine-Smith, a Liberal MP, that Mark Carney has broke his promise to spend less, with $90 billion of new spending, only 36% of which is actually capital. The rest is more costs. So when you have a Liberal MP attacking the costly credit card budget that Mr. Carney has put forward, then we see turmoil in the Liberals, and I know that there will be wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of this turmoil, of a Liberal MP criticizing his own budget days before the vote. I know you're camped outside his office right now, waiting to get comment from him. I know you've been chasing Mark Carney down hallways to find out what he has to say. I mean, it's just been the relentless coverage that you will have of this dissent within the Liberal Party. I understand also there's former Liberal Minister Guilbeault is unhappy with the environmental policies, that while he supports raising costs, he doesn't think they raise them enough. We've got Wilkinson is unhappy. So I know that I'm looking forward to seeing the wall-to-wall coverage on CTV of all of the costly turmoil in the Liberal budget. So I will be tuning in tonight to watch your newscast. Thank you.
So Poilievre quotes Nate Erskine-Smith's criticism of the Liberal budget. Nate Erskine-Smith, as you might know, is a Liberal MP. For a short time, he was Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities under Mark Carney. He was shipped out of cabinet after the election. I like Nate Erskine-Smith. I think he is one of the few honest politicians we have left in this country. That is his brand. He actually speaks his mind. He has made a reputation of that now. He doesn't always toe the party line. No doubt that is why he got kicked out of cabinet. But anyways, but again, here you will see why context is important. Pierre Poilievre is quoting a video that Nate Erskine-Smith made on his YouTube channel. Luckily, this was a video I had watched before I heard Poilievre's quote, because I follow Nate Erskine-Smith. From the title of the video, Nate Erskine-Smith makes it clear, abundantly clear, that he is providing a balanced perspective on the budget. Obviously, that's not the lesson Pierre Poilievre wanted you to take from that video. Nate Erskine-Smith actually titled his video, "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Some Thoughts on Budget 2025. Poilievre takes this quote out of the context of the whole video and makes it seem like Nate Erskine-Smith is bashing the budget. If you know Nate Erskine-Smith's reputation, you know that this is not new for him. I like Nate Erskine-Smith a lot. I would not have any slander on Nate Erskine-Smith. Anyways, Poilievre also mentions that Stephen Guilbeault is unhappy with the environmental policy under Mark Carney, and Jonathan Wilkinson as well is apparently unhappy. Now, these two would have been involved in the core environmental policy under Justin Trudeau. Now, to be fair, I have no doubt that Poilievre is correct about this. I made a video about this myself, right? When Chrystia Freeland announced she was leaving cabinet, I said on this very channel that there were probably some MPs who did not like the direction that Mark Carney was taking the Liberal Party, right? They've noticeably moved a little bit further right. I specifically mentioned Stephen Guilbeault and the environmental policy. So Pierre Poilievre is obviously trying to point to these unhappy ministers as evidence that the media should be looking over there and not over at his party. Well, Pierre Poilievre is missing one fundamental point. None of these Liberal MPs have crossed the floor under Mark Carney. I'm sure the media will have the wall-to-wall coverage that Pierre Poilievre desires if these MPs cross the floor to the Conservative Party. MPs having a difference of opinion is way less controversial than MPs jumping ship. Right? Unless Stephen Guilbeault or Jonathan Wilkinson or Nate Erskine-Smith actually switch parties, Pierre Poilievre's attempt to equate their criticisms with Chris Dontremont's defection is a bit of a stretch, right? So maybe Poilievre should try poaching some Liberal MPs himself. I'd be interested in seeing how that goes down. Anyways, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know your thoughts and counterpoints in the comment section. I think Pierre Poilievre is done. I've said this for the last 2 weeks or something now. This might be the long goodbye, But also, Marconi is announcing the second tranche of nation building projects on Thursday. I will be live on YouTube with you guys at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm hearing there will be a few mines in there, an LNG project as well. Importantly, we haven't heard anything about a pipeline for this round. Now that might turn into a bit of a controversy. We will spend some time breaking it all down tomorrow. So join me live on YouTube on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'll see you there. Take care, you guys.